And buenos dias, GnGs. My name is Trekkw2ks, and this is another episode of Weekend Crypto, brought to you here on the Gentleman of Crypto YouTube channel. In case you don't know, basically, I cover the news that happens over on the weekend, and that's like Friday to Sunday, record it, pop it out Monday morning at the 08 100-hour East Coast time. And so I just want to say before jumping into these stories, thank y'all for actually coming back, for paying attention, for acting with me in the live chat and the chat room part of it when we up at 08 in the morning. Some of us that's jumping into the workday. For others, we might still be in bed. I'll be one of them. Don't judge me. But I appreciate y'all who are engaging with me. I appreciate the folks who are coming back. I appreciate the folks who are even, let's say, sideways hating in the comments after the fact of the recording. I appreciate all of y'all. I appreciate the scammers too, because that means like my traffic is doing enough for me to be on y'all radar. So I appreciate all of that, right? And I appreciate the folks who are just not letting it be about the speculative side of the space. That's the only thing they pay attention to. So yeah, thank y'all. That is my gratitude of thankness and all that fun, good stuff, vibes and everything. And so let's jump into these stories. It's definitely a number of things that came out over this weekend. I really had to cut it down, but I'm definitely gonna run that full 30 minutes on this. So be prepared, be prepared. I got some things. Okay, there we go. I'm like, why is it not switching over? All right, so Massachusetts bill for special blockchain commission to assess government usage. As we all know, commissions are the greatest way to make the public believe and look like you're doing something and it's leading to something. And it's always usually in that like 12-month, we'll say it's going to be a year-long thing. The irony of this, when I seen it, I had to reach out to somebody I know that's like really familiar with Massachusetts because they do some stuff up there. And I was like, yo, have you seen this? Mass came up with this? Really surprised, because they're very much a Commonwealth state. They're very much it's a power to people kind of thing. So I was taken back by the fact that this came out of Mass. All right. So jumping into it, basically, two bills related to crypto were introduced to the Massachusetts House of Representatives January 19th. The first related to new special commission on blockchain, and second on protecting consumers in cryptocurrency exchanges. So if you go on their website and look into like the House of Representatives, you can find this document here. I will say Mass is really good at providing the documentation or like the information when it comes to bills and regulations and things related to the Commonwealth. I used to work on this project where we were doing data scraping and web crawling for COVID health data in various states. And I could tell you, Mass was like real on point with their stuff. Some of the other states, it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack for some of their data. But I'm not going to run down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying this is at least my experience with how Massachusetts is about presenting its information to its citizens of that state. That's what I'm trying to say. So Special Commission Massachusetts Representative Josh S. Coulter and Kate Lipper Garabedian. Am I saying that right? What kind of name is that? Oh, sorry. No disrespect. Submitted the bill entitled An Act Establishing a Special Commission on Blockchain and Cryptocurrency January 9th. Yo, like these names, man. What's up? Create a steering group within the Massachusetts House to look at blockchain technologies. Listen, here's the list of the things that they're saying. Here's the area that it's going to hold in. So you have 25 members. It's going to be the House Speaker, the Minority Leader, and the President of the Senate. And this is to make it look like it has muscle and teeth, because you have the major positions in the House of Representatives in the committee. This could also mean there's a heads up of, yo, it's about to be some things coming down. Even if this doesn't go through, I would throw out there that if the House Speaker, the Minority Leader, and the President was like, yeah, I'll sit on that committee, they're putting themselves for other regulatory things that will come down the pike related to blockchain and cryptocurrency. This just happens to be one of the things they're throwing their hat in on. It doesn't mean it's going to go through. It just means they're positioning themselves. That's what I'm trying to get clear to y'all. Nonetheless, here's a list of things that they're going to look to get through. Some of the stuff is just, it seems like y'all are playing the game of you're setting up the public to be eased into some kind of new fine, some kind of new certification, some kind of new licensing fee that has to be paid if you are operating in Massachusetts as a blockchain crypto thing, or if, and the way that this is done, and this is on the consumer protection side. I'm not even going to run through the whole highlights anymore because I'm running on time. Like I said, I'm going to probably run the full 30 on this. The idea, what was it? The bill that's submitted by, who's the name of this person? Republican. Oh, so Susan L. Morin, which was about protecting the people from the exchanges. It's at centralized exchanges, but but it also works in tandem and like what the commission is doing to like look over the space and see like how can we help protect and integrate this within the government side of it. So that these things will work in tandem somewhat. If you're a mass-based citizen and you're using something outside of mass, guess what? Now you as the company, you now have to possibly pay whatever it is they come up with as their licensing fee thing or some kind of tax thing. The point being is there's stuff being pushed in here that's arguably like a slippery slope. Like I said, I'm surprised this came out of mass because it almost like they're gonna play a version of what New York did. Bottom line, that's what this basically boils down to. There was something else. Oh, this part about the dexes. So this is like it could be like this now, but it doesn't mean it would be like this at the end result of when the commission is finished and like the final version of this bill. However, given the specific wording of the bill, the new rules should not apply to decentralized exchanges within mass. I didn't even know that there were dexes in Massachusetts. One, I'm learning something new, right? The bill describes a Massachusetts consumer as a person who uses a virtual currency exchange service whose information on record with or available to said service is a Massachusetts home address. If you want a dex, this kind of makes sense, but who knows what they'll say their control over this is later on. This is just the first phase of the whole thing. What was the other thing that I wanted to jump in on? Was it this part? Oh, so violations, if you don't follow the consumer protection side of it, is going to be up to $5,000. If this protection bill went through in mass, I could definitely see this double out like within 2 years because the money's going to look too attractive for it to not. That's just my thought on it. Running long. Sorry about that. I'm gonna just jump into this next story. Oh, by the way, links for this stuff will all be in the description. Let me know your thought on it. It's out there in mass. Are y'all paying attention to this? Is this really a concern for the regular average day folks, or if you have a business related to blockchain and crypto, definitely throw something in the comments on that one. I would really appreciate. And next story, this I thought was interesting. Number of reasons why. Oh, one other thing I want to say about that mass story is so if the commission starts in 2 months, right? We all know that crypto time is really fast. A week in the crypto space for news and technology development is like months and years in other industries. So in 12 months, how relevant is the information that this commission would present to the rest of out? I'm just saying, did anybody think of that? I don't know. Just throwing that out there again. But into this story about Stellar becomes newest member of the CFTC. If you don't know, let's jump into these highlights. The nonprofit organization Stellar Development Foundation announced joining a new advisory committee of the United States Commodity Futures Trading Commission. So that is a CFTC. If you have not been paying attention to them, their new head person, I'm going to say she's been a number of selfies with crypto related folks, blockchain related folks over the last couple of months, especially I want to say a little bit before the FTS situation came into public light. I've seen a couple of pictures of her floating around with crypto blockchain related people. So CFTC is definitely looking to get their cut of the hog as far as who has jurisdiction over this blockchain crypto thing. Now, jumping into this story here, though, there's a couple of things that kind of got me on this. And sorry, my timer is messed up. But anywho, according to the firm statement, DF will be one of the 4 cryptocurrency organizations at the Global Market Advisory Committee, which is one of the 5 active advisory committees overseen by the CFTC. The firm behind the Stellar chain will join representatives from traditional finance players, including the likes of JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and blockchain. Let me throw this in. You do not, as a voting citizen of the US, vote in anyone who is in or on the CFTC's commission board. You don't vote in none of those people. That is one of those advisory groups like the SEC that the public does not vote for. That's one thing to note. The second thing to note is the people behind Stellar, arguably, do not have the same original philosophies or ideals on Bitcoin. Let's say the older version or like the original versions in the regards to the ideals and stuff of Bitcoin, the principles and stuff, compared to the other cryptos, right? So you people who may not share your views on how to look at Bitcoin or how to look at other cryptocurrencies, who are now a part of a committee of other organizations and companies that are going to look to influence the regulators who you don't vote for about how you should be able to use and operate cryptocurrencies. Think about that shit for a minute, y'all. This is the stuff playing out right in front of your face right now. The Stellar folks, y'all be happy all day about it if you're in the Stellar army, whatever. But I'm just saying, I'm not necessarily a fan of it. Not saying you got to follow me on none of how I'm looking at this. Just throwing that thought out there. Next thing, the role of them in the GMAC. I thought this was a hilarious acronym name. Since FDF represents the blockchain industry on GMAC, really? I didn't vote for them to run it. I don't know. I don't even hold any Stellar. So how do they rent me? Just saying. Anywho, the foundation expects to bring the focus of Layer 1 protocol and remittances. The organization also plans on highlighting the role of stablecoins in the digital asset market and real-world use cases as part of the committee. Again, this is a different view on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and stablecoins, and then they're representing what ideals and views. I don't necessarily know if they're mine. I don't know if they're yours. We're just gonna keep it going though. The other thing to note is here's some other people who are a part of it too, as far as being in this special committee group thing for GMAC. So that's Chambers of Digital Commerce, Uniswap Labs, Coin Fund. Those are the other names on there. That was really all that was going on with this story. Jumping on to this next joint, I said I'm running for time. Did half of Cardano's network nodes go offline? Here's what happened. First, I'm a be a spoiler alert on this one. This was not the best article that explained shit. It didn't explain nothing. But I am telling this story because I know that there are people who are Cardano fans, and if you're not really on the technical side of it, this would be something that you won't even pay attention to. And if the price didn't drop any amount over the weekend, you definitely wasn't paying attention to this if you're a bag holder. But it's still, I think, a relevant thing because let me get into the highlights on this. All right, so a concerning Cardano report emerged online after Tom Stokes, a co-founder of NodeShark and a Cardano stake pool, tweeted that half of the Cardano nodes went offline hours ago. Now, this whole thing about if you've been paying any attention to how the live stream goes with King and Zay, how I'm doing the news stuff on the crypto weekend, X amount of the other folks who are doing news related content within the Gentleman Crypto Network, a lot of folks will read articles that say the word report. This report it's a new buzzword, but it's also this distancing of liability. When you say, oh, there was a report that said blah, blah, blah. Nah, dog, it was like a paragraph. It was like a tweet or something. Oh, no, it was a sound bite off of something else. When you see certain words repetitively show up in this stuff, you got to start questioning how is it being used. This is one of those examples. Tom says what he says and shows a chart. Here's a graph. Look, I'm showing you what these numbers look like based on a system that I've set up to monitor the Cardano node network and what's in my area of operation of what I can see. So now, a few hours ago, half of the Cardano nodes went offline. This is why decentralization matters. Yo, we've been saying that from the get-go, right? If you've been on the Bitcoin side of things, we've been saying that from the get-go. If you're about proof of work, you understand we've been saying that from the get-go. These things matter. Decentralization of the nodes matter. Right? That's one aspect of the technology. Now, we get into this joint down here. This person, 80 Whale, gets into, so according, I'm going to read this part. According to the network synchronization chart Stokes posted, the network sync suddenly fell from 100% where it had usually been, slightly above 40 in the early hours of Sunday for over 300 reporting nodes. So the person, 88 Whale, counters what Stokes is saying by going, no, half of the network didn't go down. So here's why I'm saying this article doesn't say shit, but it still matters because there's something happened, but it's not being explained. That's what my issue is. Something happened, but it's not being explained. I will say, though, what was definitely still proven about how the nodes are an important part within the facilitation of the crypto is that even though X amount of nodes went offline, transactions still happen. The network still function. That's the important part. Yes, that happened. What I'm not liking is it's not being clarified on why that much of the network all of a suddenly was not visible with activity. Was there some kind of attack that happened? We don't know. It's not being explained in this, but something did happen is the point. Here's the other thing to note. Cardano Focus Twitter account, Cardano Will debunked. He didn't debunk shit, did not debunk nothing, which I think is a bad way to write this in this article. So Cardano debunked the report that half of the nodes went offline. So here's what the Cardano Will comes back with. Not true. He said in response to a user, He added, block production kept going, but was slowed down for a few minutes. The network did what it was supposed to do. There are no private nodes on Cardano. So again, yes, the network kept functioning. That is what it's supposed to do. But as far as saying that they reported and debunked what Stokes said, they didn't debunk anything. They didn't say that, they didn't disprove, or they didn't counter saying that that X amount of the nodes in the network went down. All they said was that things slowed down. That's not the same thing. So my point being is, stuff is going on. I'm actually curious to see how this plays out in the next couple of weeks or months, because something else is going to come out about this. Like, you can't have that much of your nodes in your network go down and there not be a damn reason about it. That's just saying. All right, jumping on to this next thing. 4.6 billion in Ethereum end up in flames since EIP 1559. If you don't know, that was the part of the new setup with the merge, where it was about burning X amount of the transactions that was done, the transaction fee part that was done in ETH. There's a little detail of this, which I'm curious if people haven't already started figuring out how to game it, where if you pay extra than what the base fee is for a transaction, because the base fee is what get burned, but if you pay extra, doesn't get burned. So if there was a transaction thing that happened like 2 months back, or a month and a half, or a month or something back, where the person paid like 10,000 for the transaction to go through in order to bump their thing up to the head of the line. They were gaming the system because, oh man, what somebody was doing, damn, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember right now, but the point being is, when I read the story, I wasn't sure what was going on in this story, because at first I thought it was a smart contract issue. Technically, this involves smart contracts, but it's not like there was an attack, or there was a hack. That's not what was happening here. So let me get into this a little bit, and I'll put the other part of the context in. So as part of the EIP 1559 launch all the way back in August 2021, the call has been burning crypto lingo for destroying at a massive rate. Technically speaking, right, when they talk about, oh, this is being burned or it's being destroyed, what happens is you send the crypto as a transaction to a wallet or another app side that it can't be from. So it's not that it's, quote, not there anymore. It's being isolated off, and that's what we're calling burn in the Ethereum space. That is literally what's happening. That Ethereum is being sent to an address where it can be retrieved, which makes me wonder, what happens if one day somebody figures out how to reopen those wallets? What happens then? I'm really wondering, like, it's really working on this. And what would happen if you reintroduce those burned Ethereum back into the market? Or just the fact that wallet, those addresses were able to be opened again. Not saying you reintroduce them back into the market, but if somebody could prove that they open it, what would that do to the Ethereum ecosystem? Just something I've been thinking about since reading this article. Nonetheless, the basic idea here is, where was that? As per EIP 1559, a portion of all Ethereum transactions are destroyed. A piece of every NFT trade, yield strategy, and even simple token are all getting torched. And since EIP 1559 was implemented, a grand total of 2.8 million ETH has been removed from circulation, or roughly 4.6 billion at today's price. So this name right here, Ultrasound Money. It took me a minute to figure out what was going on in this article. I'm gonna continue though. The burn mechanism also means that there is more being destroyed than being issued to miners. Supply growth has now dropped to negative 1.06% per year since EIP 1559. This makes Ethereum more deflationary than, I'm gonna say, I challenge it. Was there anything else? No. All right, wait. What was the other thing? Okay, I'm gonna jump into that point too, because I think this is leading into something. So one, this is a company. So Ultrasound Money is a company. It is a Ethereum project that's like a meme thing, right? And what they're doing here is saying Ultrasound is reporting that this is how much Ethereum has been burned and blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. Got it. Cool. Here's where I'll have the second issue, and I'm going to get back to the ultrasound thing in a minute. So Ethereum more deflationary than Bitcoin. My argument to this is, how does that work if there is no hard cap? Let me jump up close. I ain't jump up close this whole thing just yet. There is no hard cap for Ethereum. We know 21 million Bitcoin. Ethereum does not have a hard cap. So in terms of supply and demand and sound money, really about the sound money argument, if we're saying that there's no hard cap on Ethereum, but more of it is being burned out than what is being put into circulation, if there's no hard cap ceiling, does it really matter that more is being destroyed than what is being put into circulation when the validation and their consensus mechanism works as it does on the Ethereum blockchain, Ethereum 2.0 and proof of stake? My thing is, no, it doesn't, because there's no hard cap. So even if for like right now, we're only in the first quarter, right, of 2023, we haven't seen what the rest, or at least half a year, is going to look like for Ethereum's burn rate. So let's say looking at it going further out into 2024, 2025, is it going to look like the end of 2022? We don't know just yet. But I'm still at a loss as to how they make the statement of, hey, this could make it more deflationary than Bitcoin, when there's still no cap on Ethereum. So there's no finite amount. Put it that way. If gold has a finite amount of physical gold in the ground, same thing with silver, and if Bitcoin has its version of that as far as a digital thing with a finite amount on it, how do you say the same thing of Ethereum that does not have a cap? And also, I would argue that there can be some level of gamification in the burning rate of ETH, which would make more of an artificial price movement for the Ethereum value, like Ethereum price point. I can't run into the whole rabbit hole thing with it, but my point being is, this is, to me, misdirectional and arguably intentional. Anywho, jumping on to this next point, again, like I said about this ultrasound thing, what I then realized after reading through the rest of this article is that we're getting into this statement here where it's a possibility of we might use this burn rate as another way to measure of a network. So the idea being is that if there's more transactional activity happening from different unique wallet addresses, that means more burn should happen in the various different types of ways that Ethereum is being used. My thing with that is, again, I see a artificial way to make the numbers look like something, and in turn increasing what the burn rate would be, but it would be a manufactured thing. That's how I'm looking at it. I think this would be a horrible example of, oh, let's use market adoption by this. Here's the thing to note. The company that's promoting this idea is ultrasound. Again, I had to read through the whole thing. My summarization of this article is this: X amount of times it could have X amount of other touch points in the article about other things or about the subject, but it's really a market placement piece for the company. In mind, when I read this article in full, I realize this is really just a placement piece for the company called Ultrasound. And the things that they're suggesting are not actual like hard fact. This is just their perspective on how they look at Ethereum. These are the things that you gotta like measure and cross-reference when you really trying to understand what's going on in this space. And I'm not talking about technical analysis and stuff. I'm talking about, does the stuff being pushed out sound sustainable? Does it help digital sovereignty, economic sovereignty, or is it just another push of a cash grab? Just saying, just throwing that out there, y'all. Jumping into this next joint, going cashless, Norway's digital currency project raises privacy concerns. So here's where I'm going to say this article also is another disservice, in that it's really more about pushing the idea of CBDCs in Norway, and literally went through this much of the article, right? This much of the article, this much of the article, this much of the article, this much of the article. When they talk about the privacy stuff, here, literally here. All of the other words was about promoting always moving with pushing out cryptocurrencies. And I'll say this in just short, because I don't even feel like going through the whole thing right now. Again, link is in the description on this one. You can definitely read it up in full on your own. But the bottom line of it is, you have the government sector side of it working with the private sector side of it. The banking institutions are definitely pushing heavy on this. And where's I going? Damn. Okay. The key touch points on what I want to hit in this one is this particular part right here, where they said, however, the second part of the source code, because they talk about how this is on a private Ethereum network. And it is the first part that they put out so far just to test it as beta was open source code. But the second part of is not going to be open source code. Announced to go public by mid-September, has yet to be revealed. So they're talking about the second part of the source code. As specified in a blog post, the initial use of open source code was not a signal that the technology would be placed on open source code, but a good starting point for learning as much as possible in collaboration with developers and alliance partners. So basically, the CBDC is going to be on a private network. It's not going to have transparency, but you're still going to be beholden to making sure you keep your part of things public, or at least transparent to the government. Who is it? So they get into this company right here. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I might be saying that way wrong, but they're also working to help put things together. So let me jump in a little bit on it. Namai, a Norway-based developer of layer 2 scaling solutions for Ethereum of the same. The company has been working on this scaling technology for Ethereum for several years and has its own network and token. They're basically looking to help deal with the public-private partnership of how to get the private companies to be a part of the public government side pushing CBDCs. This dude right here, I think, really called it Sander Anderson. I know it's not son, but it's whatever. No disrespect to that person either, and me mispronouncing their name. Despite the country's strong infrastructure for entrepreneurs and other industries, such as low energy costs, free education, these benefits do not extend to the digital realm. The tax burden faced by digital companies makes it nearly impossible to compete with businesses based in more business-friendly jurisdictions. So this guy basically had a company. He recently moved it to Switzerland because of the way things were going within Norway. And it was like, yeah, this isn't going to level the playing field for me. That was his basic point. Now, the other person they spoke to that I think was looking at it more from a standpoint, government standpoint, than a regular Joe standpoint is Michael Lewillian. Okay, all right. Head of architecture at Open Zeppelin. And where was it? He has said, so he emphasized that there's nothing stopping private. Let me jump back. A company contributing its library to the Norges Bank project doesn't sound as pessimistic. From a technical perspective, he emphasized there is nothing stopping private coins from trading and operating alongside CBDCs on both public and private Ethereum networks, especially if they use common compatible tokens such as ERC20. However, from a policy perspective, there is nothing that can stop central banks from performing financial gatekeeping and enforcing KYC standards. And this is where the CBDCs look like a natural development. And he makes no, he didn't make it, but banks will not sit by idly as blockchain ecosystem grows, as there are a lot of shadow banking activities happening on chain, Ludwig specified, adding. CBDCs offer central bank the ability to better perform gatekeeping and enforce KYC rules on CBDC holders, whereas enforcing the same against using non-governmental stablecoins is far more challenging. But it doesn't mean that they can't figure out ways to do it. The bottom line in this is the article definitely did a lot of other stuff before addressing what the privacy stuff was, and this three sentences technically don't actually the privacy issue of, are we talking about laws that already exist in Europe and like the GDP thing, the GDP, I forget what it stands for, or the way that the EU looks at like the right to be forgotten in the digital sense. It doesn't actually address all of that, but nonetheless, this is the stuff that's going on in Norway right now. We'll see how it pans come summertime, because this is going to pop back up again. All right, I'm down to two. Nearly there. Phantom releases decentralized funding system called Ecosystem Vault. I swear this is a stupid name, but I'm not a part of the Phantom community or network. It is what it is. Phantom has released a decentralized funding system to finance new projects dubbed the Ecosystem Vault. The vault will get 10% of all transaction fees paid on the network, which will be granted to the projects. To apply for funding, projects will have to make a governance proposal and get approved via on-chain vote. Yo, let me get through this highlight and I'm gonna say my thought after it. The Ecosystem Vault, this is such a stupid name, will get 10% of transaction fees paid on the blockchain in FTM. The blockchain native asset which is controlled exclusively by FTM stakers. The decision to fund this vault was passed in July of last year. So 2022, this just happened. I guess this is just like the follow-up of, hey, we finally have the vault set up and we're gonna start pushing through for people who are interested in funding. So to apply for funding, projects will have to create both a forum post and a proposal, get approved in a via via on-chain vote. These proposals will then be voted on by members on of the community with at least 55%. Damn. Okay, voting approval needed for voters from voters for a successful grant. Let me just say it now. I swear, isn't this the same setup that Dash has? Like Dash has the whole, they fund a number of projects that are Dash based and it's all community based voting. Hey, we have this idea. All right, we'll put it up to the community. And if the community says, yeah, here's the Dash for you to go and do what you're going to do. I feel like this is just their version of what Dash is doing. I think it's Dash that has that. If I'm saying the wrong crypto, somebody say something in a comment, please. Oh, what is it? The payment will be distributed using LlamaPay, an automated crypto payment service. All right. So here's the other part that had caught me in this. Only the wallet address provided in the application will be paid. The maximum amount that can be requested will be equal to the total supply of Phantom tokens in the vault at the time of application. So this almost sounds like a first come first serve, but let's just say y'all end up having a spike in that for the next 9 months this year. So that means the pot is going to be bigger, but then only one project can get to actually put up a community vote to use those funds. That doesn't make sense that you can be equal to the size of the vote. And then why, you know what? I mean, right now the vote is at 20,000 USD, but that doesn't mean it won't grow over time. That's my point, which doesn't make sense that you can have that much. I don't know. Maybe just how I'm thinking about this, but that happened for those of you who are into Phantom. Next thing, this is my last story. I want to say thank y'all for the folks who actually stayed around. I made it past the 30-minute marker. I appreciate y'all so much. So jump into this next joint right here. I seen this and I thought it was going in a different direction, but it isn't the thing that I thought it was, because I talked about a story last week in how a European company used bonds as collateral to get 7 million MakerDAO stablecoins, because they had, what did they do? They used home loans in the form of bonds that equaled up to 40 million in the special deposit that they set up, the special structure that they set up on MakerDAO. The community voted yay for it. They took out 7 million. The cap for them is 30 million. I said what I said last week, and then this story pops up this Monday. Okay, there's a pattern forming, and there's more, because more stuff is coming to light right now. So here we go into this. U.S. Home Loan Bank lent billions of dollars to crypto banks. Report. Again, report. So jump into it down here. Yeah. So this report, really a news article out of the Wall Street Journal on January 21st. This is when this report came out. If you don't know, basically what happened is that the United States Federal Home Loan Bank System is lending billions of dollars to two of the largest cryptocurrency banks in an effort to migrate the effects of the surge in withdrawals. And this is what came out in the Wall Street Journal report. So if you don't know, the FHLB is a consortium of 11 banks across the United States that provide funds to other banks and lenders. It came out of the Great Depression era, and they basically got a lot of money, 1.1 trillion, y'all. So the entity reportedly lent nearly 10 billion to commercial banks in the last quarter of 2020. That's a lot of money, folks. That's a lot of money. What did bank do with it? I imagine they lent it out to various other cryptocurrency related entities in the space. So what is it? The second bank to request funds from the FHLB is Silver, whose name have we been calling for the last couple of weeks because of the FTX situation? Silvergate. So Silvergate received 3.6 billion in last quarter of 2022. Basically is money has been overflowing out of Silvergate versus what they've been able to get to come in. So something is happening in the two major financial banks that are in the crypto space, Bank and Silvergate. Again, I was really surprised to realize that they were able to use the FHLB system to be able to basically get propped up. Arguably, that's a financial bail-in. Those are bail-ins. Like, it's a repeat of '08 all over again. And then ironically enough, it's still connected to the housing market because it's banks that do home loan stuff. Listen, y'all, I feel like there's a lot of things that are gonna come to, and when it starts coming to light, if you haven't been paying attention or at least been able to pay attention and cross-reference names and these and industries, it's just all seem, oh, how could that have happened? There's a that not just came out, but it came out a little bit ago in relation to the bank that TX is connected to that they had bought not too long after they popped up on the scene. There's a whole thing brewing out about that, and that story's been out for a couple of months, but you don't hear about none of that in the mainstream. I think that FTX is going to be a new type of boogeyman in the crypto space and in traditional finance, and FTX is this era's version of Mt. Gox. And I'm not talking about the front page story of what was going on with Mt. Gox. I'm talking about the back end, back room story stuff. If you've been in the space for a minute, some of the things about what Mt. Gox has been proposed to be connected to. I think it's some of that stuff playing out in the X stuff. But other than that, I'm sorry I ran dumb long today, but it was a lot of stuff when I was reading through these stories that I was like, what the, like, understand we're past Martin Luther King holiday and now shit's gonna start flying left and right. If you're not in this thing for the speculative stuff, but you still want to pay attention, you got to start cross-referencing the names, places, and the information sources. You don't like what I'm saying? Listen to King and Zay, cross-reference it with somebody else. But the point being is the stories that are about to start coming out or the things that are going to come to light, 2023 is going to be real, y'all. Other than that, I'm sorry for the ramble. I'm sorry for the long thing, but I appreciate those of you who made it past the 35-minute marker. Oh, side note, still running on doing the episodes of Metaverse The Other Side, and we got some things in the works. If you're into the techie side or just like the speculative side of metaverses, we working on some things and hopefully it'll pan out in the coming weeks and months. So again, like hashtag we're not tourists. We definitely do break and like work with this tech stuff. Other than that, I'm sorry, y'all. It's been a long rant. It's been a long day. But I'm Trekkw2ks. This is Weekend Crypto, brought to you here on the Gentleman Crypto YouTube channel. And so, best things that I do wish upon anybody who is listening to the sound of my voice is be in a safe place and in a safe space with good company. If you're not having a productive over busy day, that is the best thing that I can wish for you, as well as in the rest of this week and all of that. One.